We take a look at the redesigned 2017 Subaru Impreza. We also look at a fan favorite, the updated Mazda 6. Next on Talking Cars. Hi everybody, welcome to Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
You know, normally when people think of Subaru, they probably think of the Outback or the Forester because they're the company's big sellers. But it turns out they have just redesigned for 2017 the Subaru Impreza. This car introduces a whole new platform for Subaru, which they are going to build basically everything. We'll see what happens to the BRZ, but they'll build everything on this platform.
Yeah, it's all new global platform, first Impreza ever built in the U.S. You know, it's a very important car for them. And from my initial drive, curious what you guys think about it, but it seems like, you know, it's a little bit bigger, and it rides really nicely. I was really impressed with the handling, and I didn't even drive the sport version. And they've done a lot of work with the CVT. And you know, it seems like the whole goal with CVT is to make it be as less like a little like a CVT as possible, more like a regular automatic. And I think they did a pretty good job with it. And you know, it feels like a real nice car, real solid car when you're driving it.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been at Consumer Reports fans of the Impreza. The previous generation Impreza was a top pick. You know, and it was a very earnest car. You know, always had a lot of room, was always easy to see out of. It felt a little thin. You know, it was very slab-sided. The interior was just one step better than industrial. It was slow. You know, like you said, the CVT was not one of the better CVTs. This car is a lot more refined, isn't it?
It's a lot more refined. It's a lot more upscale. It feels a lot more substantial. Ride comfort was always a strength of Subaru, and it remains with the Impreza. And you're right about the CVT. It doesn't feel like a CVT with that rubber band kind of sensation. Instead, it has some artificial shift points in it, and it feels like a multi-ratio transmission. So I don't think there's a whole lot of reason to complain about that.
No, and I mean, automotive journalists, including us, love to complain about CVTs because oftentimes you step into it and the engine, you know, the tachometer just spins up and the engine just spins up and you get nothing but engine noise. But with this, when you ooze around town, then it works like the CVT. It's very continuous. It's, but when you step into it, then it knocks off shifts, so you don't get the high engine noise.
You never get that, you know, just hanging out at, you know, 6,000 RPM, just hanging out up there while you're accelerating. You know, with the CVT, quite often, what's happening with the throttle versus the
how
RPM
much going
and how fast you're going don't seem to make any sense. This one, that almost never happens. There was a couple times that maybe quarter throttle, half throttle, where it had gotten up to about 4,000 RPM, but unlike the old days, it brings it back down pretty quickly. It doesn't just hang out up there.
Right, and I mean, these are not powerful cars. You know, this 2 liter is making about 152 horsepower. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of average for the class, but they move along. You know,
yeah, they do. Yeah. I mean, I think it's ample for what the car is and what it's supposed to be.
Right.
I mean, one thing I'd like to say here that Subaru has been really weak and behind the 8 ball on the infotainment system.
Yes, they have.
And with this one, I think they are right up there with the best infotainment screens, with a clear screen that has a nice buttons, a quick response. It's very, very well done.
Yeah, I mean, they stacked the deck a bit. I mean, these are both the up-level systems that we tried out with the 8-inch screen instead of a standard 7-inch screen, but they do give you standard Apple CarPlay. A lot of the details are worked out. The radio stays on after you turn the car off until you open the door.
I think they listened to our previous podcast.
They listened to you, Gabe. They listened to you. The infotainment, the information screen on the top of the dashboard is now intuitive, and it gives a lot more information than it used to. There just feels like a whole lot of details that are thought out now that never were.
Right. But the interiors look really nice. I mean, they just have a nice design anyway, all the trim pieces and everything, and that's going to carry over even to the lower ones, the dash design and everything. The only thing, I thought that they got the detents a little wrong on the audio, the volume, and the tuning knobs. Like have almost no detents. So it's when you're trying to just go one station over, it goes maybe 2 or 3.
Oh, that's interesting.
Whereas the climate system, the temp control everything. That detent makes a lot more sense to me. I like more of a firm detent.
Right.
Maybe that's just me. But.
Maybe. Going back to sort of the big picture items of this platform, Subaru's claiming it's 1.4 times stronger. I believe they say it will meet crash standards up to 2025. They are very much trying to future-proof this platform. They are spreading eyesight, their forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking, optional system. They're expanding that availability throughout the lineup, which is something we wanted. I mean, we want it to be standard on all cars, but we're happy that it is optional on more levels of the Impreza.
Definitely a welcome move.
Yeah, it definitely is. Subaru also, they like saying that, of course, the cars have standard all-wheel drive, except for the BRZ. Every Subaru has standard all-wheel drive. And they're saying you don't really make any sacrifices for getting all-wheel drive. Do you think that's the case?
Well, it's been true with the previous Impreza. I think that got pretty decent fuel economy compared to the class back then. Although I think it was a 28 mpg.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and that was pretty much the standard for the class of front-wheel drive compact sedans. And but now the class has moved on to like 30 to 33 miles per gallon, as we've seen with the Mazda 3 or the Elantra and Corolla maybe. So of course we'll see after we test it.
Exactly. We don't know.
Yeah, no, we'll see what it actually is. And the pricing's fairly competitive. A base automatic sedan is right at $20,000, which is right where a Civic LX is. It's right where a decently equipped Elantra is. We tested we borrowed from Subaru. One of the press cars is an Impreza Sport. We rented. That's right, because we pay to use press cars.
Exactly.
One of the cars that we got from them is an Impreza Sport. And in the past, Sport with Impreza always meant, there were Outback Sports and Impreza Outback Sports, and they were always the hatchback, and it was a little bit higher, and it was two-tone, and then the two-tone went away.
They love the Sport badge, they just don't know where to put it.
That's right. Well, I think what they did now is it used to mean outdoor sports, and now it means sporty. So, there's red stitching inside and a kind of an unfortunate looking spoiler on the back of the sedan. It's not a lot sportier to drive, I don't think.
No, it's not. Maybe it's maybe because the WRX nowadays is so extreme and so out there that they feel like they need something in between.
Right.
I mean, it's closer to a regular Impreza. It's nowhere near a WRX, but
it's a nice car.
yeah.
The sports sedan that we tried out is 23615 with its CVT automatic. The car parked behind us is a limited hatchback. Subaru says they sell a lot of hatchbacks, which is interesting because they've been selling hatchbacks all through the Impreza lineup. Just now you're seeing Civic getting back in the game with the hatchback. You're seeing Cruze getting into the game with the hatchback. Subaru's been there a long time. But this limited hatch has everything. It has eyesight, it has the upgraded stereo system. It's $29,260.
Yeah, I think it starts at 25, but with all that stuff, it gets up to there.
And I mean, it's a really nice car. I'd be very happy to own it, but almost $30,000.
It's probably in line with fully loaded Golf or a Mazda 3 with all the active safety. But to pay that kind of money for a compact hatch is a little steep. I agree.
That said, the interior is pretty nice. I mean, there's soft touch
nice.
everywhere. They're just all over the place. The stitch
is
really nice.
You get a power seat for the first time in an Impreza.
Yeah, 6-way. But so I mean, they've got some good stuff in there. But again, I don't know how many people are going to spend $29,000 on an Impreza.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you. I mean, recently I got a chance to drive a Chevy Cruze hatchback. And it was another press car. That we rented. And again, it was leather and the safety equipment, and it was an extremely nice car. But it was also $27,000 car. It's what stuff costs these days.
Right.
When you get all the options. I think the Impreza has a chance to be a very nice Goldilocks level car here. You can see out of it. It's pretty quiet. It rides pretty well. It should get decent fuel economy. Because you look at, there's a lot of cars with some compromises. The Golf is a wonderful driving car. We've raved about the Golf. It has not been reliable. It's also expensive. The Focus is like half a size smaller. It has not been reliable.
Civic hasn't been reliable.
Yeah, the Civic hasn't been reliable.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah.
The Elantra is very accommodating, but it's nothing special to drive.
It's too noisy and doesn't ride all that comfortably.
Yeah, so I mean, there's there's actually a spot for this to.
No, and I think it's going to appeal to some people who would be looking at either a small SUV like a Forester and a family mid-size sedan like a Legacy, and they might see this Impreza as a real viable solution. As yeah, maybe I don't need to have all that room. Maybe I don't need to go that size, and that has the potential of satisfying a lot of people. Because if you're not sacrificing ride comfort or noise isolation, and you don't need all that room,
And it's got a
you have all the
good size
technology,
back seat.
then yeah, I see a lot of people being attracted to this.
The question is, can they get that word out to people other than the Northeast and the Northwest that this is a really nice car?
And the Rockies.
Even if you don't need the all-wheel drive, it's still a really great driving car.
Well, I mean, Subaru sales have been going through the roof. I mean, they are one of the fastest growing brands, and it's not growing based on just selling more to the Northeast and the Pacific Northwest. They are selling more cars even in places where it doesn't snow, because the cars, even if you took the all-wheel drive out of it, they are still, desirable cars, or they are becoming desirable cars.
They've managed to kind of make themselves stand out and appeal to a certain type of person. So yeah.
I think for 29 grand though, I'm probably gonna I'd probably give up some options and get a Forester. I mean, just, that's a lot of money for not having a small SUV.
I wouldn't argue with you.
No, okay, well, for once you wouldn't argue with me.
Mark that down.
Going to reader and viewer comments, people who are willing to argue with us.
Well, I'm shocked.
I know, it's amazing. Our last show was about the all-electric Chevy Bolt. As you can learn when you read the comments, people don't always agree with one another. Honesty Counts says, once people realize that the Bolt is affordable and gives 95% what people want, a quarter of everyone is going to be wanting one of them for their next vehicle. I can see GM easily building 2 million Bolts per year 10 years from now. Okay, very keen on the Bolt. The other side from Teched Off, now that Trump is president, I wouldn't touch any electric car, not a Tesla, not even a Tesla. This is a compliance car and GM will kill it shortly after and not invest anything in a charging infrastructure. So you can see that our audience is totally unified on the future success of the Bolt.
Sure, like the rest of the country.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, the new administration does raise questions about electric cars.
It does, yeah.
Will the incentives continue?
Yeah, we'll find out. We don't know yet.
Yeah, you don't know yet.
Right.
But the first guy does bring up a good point, that finally there's an electric car that's affordable and that has a reasonable range. And it will be interesting to see, if people glom onto that or if they're still scared by the whole, electric range problem.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting. There's a lot of things that are going to be very interesting to see around this whole topic. Someone brought up a correction to something Michelle had said on the last episode, which we do appreciate. Please pass it on to your testers that in the Bolt, the way to go from drive into L is to pull the shifter down like you are going into drive. To explain that, we complained about the Bolt's monostable shifter because it just pops back to the center position no matter whatever gear it's in. And Michelle was having a hard time getting it out of L. We appreciate the correction. This does show that this is not an intuitive design, because if L is the lowest position, you'd think you'd go up to get out of L.
Yeah, the shifter is definitely not an intuitive design, but you can get the same effect by just squeezing the paddle on the left.
You get the
and
regenerative
get the regen braking,
yeah,
which is much handier as far as I'm concerned.
I'll argue that. I drove the car all the time in L because it was just, it did the braking for me. I didn't have to squeeze anything.
It was neat. It's kind of neat to play with it though, and to be
Yeah,
able to have
it
it in
is.
L and then get even more braking with the
I
paddle.
did. No, you're right. You do get the most. I think the most regen is from the paddle.
But I think your point being, though, it's clear that these monostable designs just aren't intuitive to most people.
Yeah,
No.
some are better than others, but this one is particularly
Yeah, this isn't
unintuitive, just like in the LaCrosse and the XT5.
Yep, in the Buick LaCrosse Cadillac XT5. Talking more about electric cars. No functionality in a Tesla Model X. The Model X now has folding seats. I wonder how many are going to get them. What he's talking about is we said that the back seats do not fold in a Tesla Model X. And they don't unless you get the 5-passenger. They now have a 5-passenger version with seats that fold flat in the back. But if you get a 6 or 7-passenger version like we own, they don't. They're clamshell designs.
Which makes no sense in an SUV.
Well,
but the
even-
5-seater, great that they can do that now. That's awesome.
I mean, even forget an SUV, even the Tesla Model S. I mean, we showed in one of our videos how you put throw a bike in a Model S, no problem, but in Model X, you're dead in the water.
Yeah, you wind up with more length. Yeah, and it also, even if the 5-passenger version is available, a lot of SUV buyers go for captain's chairs in the second row in the moment, and you'd expect that to carry over in a luxury SUV like the Tesla. And once that happens, you lose that practicality.
What else?
Okay. There are 2 cars that we constantly are getting reader questions about. One of them is the Toyota Land Cruiser. Toyota's $80-something thousand SUV that they sell, a couple thousand of a year. The other one is the Mazda 6. Can the CR team conduct an updated Mazda 6 review? The new 2017 model appears to have incremental improvements which address the specific weaknesses the CR team has pointed out, i.e. noise. Please. Here's what we did for you. Before we filmed this episode, we actually have a Mazda 6 Grand Touring, a 2017 press car that we rented from the manufacturer. Gabe and I went out and drove it. Gabe, is it quieter?
It might be, but if it is, it might be by
Very scientific, very scientific.
Maybe.
well, by
Maybe.
1% maybe. It's very
Yeah.
incremental.
Yeah.
The car feels, there's something very insubstantial feeling about that car.
I like
For
to think
that
it feels
class.
light on its feet.
Light on its feet and light
I should write the ad
everywhere,
copy.
everywhere else.
Well, it is a light car. It's a lightweight car. And one of the ways they saved weight is by not putting in a whole bunch of sound deadening. They claim to have added sound deadening for 2017. I agree with you. I mean, road noise is okay. There's a lot of wind noise. I found there was a good amount of wind noise, and by good I don't mean good. Quite a bit of wind noise. Quite a bit of engine
Yeah,
noise too.
there's engine noise as well. It's and the whole conversation about the Mazda 6 is that it's such a sporty family sedan, and I'm sorry. I mean, it really isn't really all that. I mean, if I wanted a sports sedan in that class, the Ford Fusion has got it.
Well, you're going to give up some reliability probably with the Fusion.
And fuel economy.
And fuel
Definitely
economy.
fuel economy,
Yeah, definitely you give a fuel economy.
Right.
I mean, I understand the appeal of the Mazda 6. It's always at the top of Car and Driver and other comparison road tests, for the enthusiast magazines. It has good, reliability's been great, owner satisfaction's been great. But you're right, it's like half a size smaller.
Yeah, I
than
have a
most other
friend who
sedans.
actually went and bought a Mazda 6 based on Car and Driver, even though, I talked to him before that, but he bought the 6, and it's only an anecdotal thing, but he was disappointed.
Yeah, going back to the noise thing, when Mazda was talking to us about the CX-9, it was very obvious they had designed that SUV from the beginning to be quieter. And there's ways to do this. You close up holes in the firewall, you put in more sound deadening to begin with. It seems like with the Mazda 6, they're adding little bits of patchwork.
Right. Well, that's the difference between an all-new design and just slight improvements to a car.
Right.
And noise has always been a Mazda problem, and the CX-9 was maybe the first one we've driven in a long, long time that we could actually say, wow, this thing's quiet. And you still can't say that with the Mazda 6.
Right, and it will be interesting that they will show a new. We're recording this before the LA Auto Show. They'll show a new Mazda CX-5 there. It'll be interesting to see if that becomes quiet.
Right, and that means that a redesigned 6 is not too far behind.
Right, so we're not running out to buy another
Right.
Mazda 6 because probably within, let's see, the current 6 came out like not quite a year after the CX-5, so
Right.
you'll probably see a new Mazda 6 or a substantially updated one.
Still a stylish car, though.
Oh, it's still very stylish.
And I like the way
I
it
see the
drives. I
appeal.
hate to disagree with Gabe. Again, probably first time that's ever happened, but
I
I
don't.
like the
It's
way it
just-
drives.
I would
We
probably
love
get
disagreements.
Yeah, I'd probably get a Kia Optima instead, or like you said, the Fusion.
Yeah, you know what? In this class, I mean, there are 2 paths to go here. I mean, you either
Which
get
is the road we should travel. Gabe?
I mean, if you're not interested in having a sporty car in that class, you just go get a Camry. I'm pretty happy when I get a Camry as a rental car. And if you want the sporty aspect, the Ford Fusion is really where it's at.
All right, there you have it. No one should argue with Gabe. Going back to our reliability episode, Mercedes CL says, reliability isn't a problem as long as it's a fixable problem. but sometimes issues like oil consumption or fundamental design flaws won't fix it all, and that's the problem. I've got a problem with his definition of a problem. That, you know, if I've got to take my car to the shop to get it fixed, even though it can be fixed, I don't want to deal with that.
Even if it's a problem and you didn't take it to the shop to get it fixed, it's still a problem.
Yeah, it's still something that broke, that shouldn't have broke.
And we don't expect that anymore. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
these days you expect your car to, you know, go close to 100,000 miles with maybe hardly anything having to be done other than maybe brake pads, you know, so.
I think there is a certain attitude in enthusiast forums and online that, you know, if you can fix the car yourself, you know, it's not a big deal. Yeah, okay, you know, it's something to do on a weekend. You order the part, you find it on discount, you fix it yourself, you feel very handy, and life's great and it goes on.
It's the difference between...
But that's not how normal people own cars.
Yeah, normal people think that the car is there to serve them, not
Yes.
they are there to serve the car.
Very much, yeah, I agree with that. Last question. Need your help in deciding on a roadster. The MX-5, the Mazda Miata MX-5 is a clear choice, but at my age, comfy seats and some storage space is needed for long weekend drives from LA to San Francisco. Also wish for blind spot and automatic emergency braking for safety, as well as a rear camera for times with the roof up. Is there another choice worth the additional cost? The TTs and the 2+2s seem to creep up in cost to the equivalent of 2 Miatas. What else is there?
Well, does he need a new car? Because, I mean, regardless of his age, going to from LA to San Francisco with the Miata, I would strongly suggest you don't want that. I'd go with the used BMW 3 Series or an Audi A5.
I was going to say Audi
secondhand.
A5 is maybe, you know, even an Audi A5, a new one is about, you can, starting around 10 grand more than a Miata, maybe something like that, maybe 15. So, I mean, it's going to be more expensive, but you're also going to get 2 extra seats. You're going to have more room inside the car. So that's not a bad way to go. I mean, if he really wants to splurge, go for a Boxster. But
Yeah.
now you're talking,
Which is
talking almost
definitely-
twice as much.
it's
But
more than
you do
twice.
have more cargo room, believe it or not, you know, in the Boxster. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult question.
And to get all those safety things is really difficult in the convertibles.
Actually, it is, because, yeah, even if you could get a BMW 2 Series convertible. You could probably
Or
find
an Audi A3. Those are new and
Yeah.
they're going to be like $45,000.
you can get a used 1 Series convertible if you look, but finding blind spot monitoring and forward collision warning, it's tricky normally on BMWs, and it's going to be even trickier on those.
Even a rear view camera is not that common.
No,
you
the
can go
Germans
the Camaro,
make it.
you could go the Camaro and Mustang route, but
Yeah.
that's not going to drive like a Miata or the cars that I think he's
No.
thinking about.
A Mustang convertible, though,
That's-
comes to mind.
Yeah.
You get a rear view camera that you can get a rear view camera that way.
Yeah, you get a blind spot monitoring. I don't know if they have all the Ford's collision warning and automatic emergency braking stuff. Yeah, it's a tricky question.
That's why I'm asking if he doesn't need necessarily a Roadster, but just wants the convertible to look good, then I'd go with a second-hand 3 Series.
Well, the
or
3
A5.
Series is going to give you the most possibility of getting the safety stuff. Again, you're going to have to hunt through it, and you're going to have to figure out BMW's option naming to find driving assistance package 2 or something like that in order to get all this stuff. But
Yeah.
it's out there. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Talking Cars. As always, we thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you again next time.